Good afternoon and welcome to a JMO online event. My name is Pauline Woods-Wilson. I'm president of the Morris Federation, and hosting with me from across the Morris organisations, we have Jen Cox, chair of Open Morris. We have Emma Melville, squire of the Morris Ring. Hello, from the Morris Federation, we have Eliza Russell, Peter Selly Stamp, Andrew Knight, and Lynn Steele. So today we have a workshop all about setting up and running youth Morris teams with speakers Jess Arrowsmith of NYFTE, Penny Jane Swift of Steps in Time, and Andrew Fawcett of Wath Morris Miners. So first up is Jess, and over to you, Jess.
Thank you very much, Pauline. I'm here as the Artistic Director of NYFTE, which stands for the National Youth Folk Troupe of England. Big mouthful, so we go by NYFTE. NYFTE are a national group across England of 10 to 18-year-olds and have been running for over 30 years. So I'm definitely not here talking about my experience of setting up a team. I've been Artistic Director since 2019. So I'm more going to share things that I feel might be relevant to other groups, really, about running a youth team. NYFTE is possibly a little bit unique in the fact that we are a national team. So there's some of the things about the way that we do stuff are because we have members all over the country. But I think there's some stuff that will be common to any youth group, however you set up. Of course, there's as many different ways to run a group as there are groups running themselves. So I'm not trying to say this is the right way to do it in any way, but if it's helpful to share what we do, obviously do ask any questions if you'd like as I go along. So I'll give you a bit of context first about just what we are like and how we operate. And then I'm particularly going to focus on a couple of different areas. So recruitment and retention, which kind of go together, and then also safeguarding, because I honestly think that's probably one of the most important bits, really. Just to tell you a little bit about how we work then. So NYFTE has at the moment, well, we usually have somewhere between 30 and 40 young people as members of our team. We agreed a few years ago that 36 was about our ideal maximum, although we let it go up to about 40. We had 37 last year. Obviously, it changes from one year to the next because young people don't stay young, so they keep growing out of the older end of that age limit and coming in at the bottom. But we're in a very healthy position in terms of membership. As a team, our repertoire covers the whole range of different dance traditions from across England. So all the different types of Morris, Cotswold, Border, Northwest, Molly, Longsword, Rapper, Clog. We also do social dance and instrumental music and song as well. So it's quite the range. There's quite a lot of different stuff that we do. And our repertoire each year usually has about 30 different things in it, some of which stay in from one year to the next, and some of which are new, developed for that year, because obviously our team members who are coming back year after year want to get their teeth into new things. I think the most unusual thing about the way we have to work because of being national is we don't get together terribly frequently. So we have short, intense bursts of activity and then gaps in between. We actually have two training events a year, a weekend in February and a week at Easter that are residential. And then we go to 5 or 6 folk festivals to perform. And then over the winter, we tend to run kind of one-day workshops on specialist things. So today, in fact, we've been doing a rapper dancing workshop, and we're usually focusing on things that do need that bit of extra time spent on them. So we do get together fairly frequently, and as such, it's a whole family affair generally for our young members, and it becomes quite all-encompassing. It's a bit of a way of life, really. So once they're in, they're really in, and the whole family is in, whether they want to or not. But it's very friendly. It feels like a big family, and that's one of the things that's really, really lovely about it and being part of it. So yeah, I'll move on to thinking about recruitment and retention in particular, because I am conscious I've not got super long. And in terms of both of those, really, I honestly think the most important thing for us is critical mass. Having a group who visibly are choosing to be there and having a really good time doing it is the thing that makes, I think, the biggest difference to whether other people want to join it and be part of that. Now, it's all very well me saying that because I've inherited a team that already has that critical mass. I totally understand that it's if you're setting something up from scratch, it takes a little while to get there. But I do think it's important to just be aware of that really, and to have a think about, what would be your ideal size for a team and how are we going to get there as quickly as possible. And then what are you going to do with that critical mass once you've got it to make it visible to the people who you'd then be wanting to attract to join? So that's one of the things. I don't have any magic answers as to how to achieve that other than taking it out there and letting people see it. But it does depend where you choose to do that as well. So I'll come on to that again in a minute. Other things that I think are really important for NYFTE and may well be for other groups as well is that we're quite youth led. So we have the full age range. We have 10-year-olds all the way up to 18-year-olds. And our older ones are given an awful lot of control, freedom. What they're getting out of being in the team actually is hugely about leadership and team working and, all of those life skills. It's not, I always say, it's not really about the Morris dancing. Of course, it's about the Morris dancing because that's what they're there for. But actually, a lot of the things they're taking away from it are much broader than that. And I think that's one of the reasons that they stick with it and that they enjoy it. So yeah, in order for the retention side of things, letting them feel that it is their team, that they have a say, that they get to actually make it happen, I think is one of the reasons that what we're doing seems to work, as opposed to, just being fed it from the top down, where, they might get fed up and bored and wander off. So that's part of it. Another thing as far as recruitment is concerned is in some way making it cool, image being an incredibly important thing for lots of people, but particularly for lots of young people. And so partly that's what they look like when they're doing it, what they're going to wear, having a costume that they've had a say in what it looks like, and that does change and evolve over time to take into account the views of the people who are actually going to have to wear it, over and above the practical considerations about, all of the usual kit stuff about, can you get hold of it and how easy is it to maintain and all of that stuff. But just thinking about, what are they going to feel like wearing it, I think is more important for a youth team perhaps than it would be for an adult team. I mean, it's important for adult teams as well, isn't it? But young people are so aware and so conscious of, what are their peers going to think of them. So I do think that that's important. And also just having a quality performance. Young people are far more likely to want to join something that they think looks impressive than join something that they think looks a bit naff. So in whatever way, trying to make sure that what is being put out has a high standard, I think makes a really big difference to how likely it is that people want to come and join in doing it. So yeah, those are most of the things I was thinking about in terms of recruitment anyways, is yeah, what does it look like? What would it feel like to be part of that? And then finally, where do you take, if you've got your group with critical mass who are wearing their cool outfits or whatever it is, where are you going to take them in order to expose what they do to your future potential recruits? And for us, that's generally folk festivals. And we tend to go to, there's one folk festival, Chippenham Folk Festival, we go to every single year. But other than that, we'll go to 4 or 5 other festivals and we try and change that up every year. So we're going to different places, partly so that for our members, they are getting a range of experience going to different size festivals and different styles of performance. But it also means that, we are being seen by lots and lots of different audiences. So yeah, where that's true for us as a national team, it might be very different for a more kind of regional or local group. But something I'm very conscious of is that an awful lot of the young people I know don't want to be seen by the people that they know. So actually, it's far easier for us to take a bunch of kids to the opposite end of the country to where they live and get them to Morris dance than perhaps it would be in their own hometown. And we sometimes do have a situation where we are performing on somebody's doorstep and they say, I'm going to step out of this one. I don't want to do it because I might get seen by somebody I'm at school with. And actually, I think it's fair to respect that. You can't force people to do things. They have to want to do it. Otherwise, what is the point? But it is something to bear in mind if you are running a more local group, is that going to be an issue for your members? Every kid's different. Some of them won't care at all. Some of them will enjoy showing their friends what they do. But you might well find that every group will have some people who find that really difficult. So it's something to bear in mind anyway. So that's the recruitment side of things. In terms of retention, some of what I've just said accounts for retention as well. But also, I think having a really clear structure helps so that when kids are taking part in our sessions, they know what they're getting out of it. We find that well-motivated young people learn so fast compared to the teaching that I've done of adults. The kids run circles around the adults. So if you've got a whole group of little information sponges, you kind of need to go with that and work at their pace. What we tend to do in NYFTE, partly because we are working in a very intense period, is we stick to 45-minute teaching sessions and then we switch to a different activity. So we'll do 45 minutes of a thing, have a break, feed them cake. Cake's really important. And then have another 45-minute session doing something else, for the most part, not always, but mostly. So short breaks, lots of opportunities for snacks and going to the loo and having a drink of water and going and turning in circles in the corner or whatever they need to do. But then moving on to things. And when we're structuring our teaching, we're generally aiming to go from never having done it before to ready to perform it in front of an audience in 3 45-minute sessions, which sounds really fast. But by the time they've been in the team a few years, they're really expert dancers and they can do that. And I think it allows them to feel that they've really achieved a lot in the time that they're with us, given that we don't get together all that often. Again, it might be different if you're part of a group that's going to meet every week. But I still think if you were meeting every week, if you don't go quickly enough, they will get bored and fed up and go, well, I can't see the point of this because we're just doing the same thing that we did last week. So I think having that structure and a plan for, we're going to do this quite quickly and then move on to something new and different really keeps their interest. So that's a helpful bit of structure for us. And then the other thing from a structural point of view is progression for them as young people. So we often get people joining when they're sort of 10, 11, 12, and they stay with us, as I've said, until we say they can stay until their 19th birthday. So they need to feel that as they grow up and are older and more sensible and have had more experience, that they're being rewarded for that and that they are getting given more as they get bigger. Nothing more demotivating for a 15-year-old than being stuck with a bunch of 10-year-olds. So we structure what we do. Our repertoire that I mentioned that's got 30 things in it, not everybody does everything of the 30 things. When they first joined in their first, year or two, they're probably only doing a subset of that. By the time they've been in the team 6, 7, 8 years, they can probably do everything. But the way they progress up that ladder, it varies, but we do think about that structure quite carefully. So we've got some dances that is very much age based, and they won't get to do a certain thing until they're in year 11 or whatever. And others, it's more experience based. So if they come to us and actually they're already a really, really good clog dancer, they're going to get put in the flash clog dances straight away. But for the ones who are only just learning clog when they start, it'll take a few years to get there. But I think it's really important for them to be able to see quite easily what their next steps are, what they're working towards. And a lot of what we do is individual coaching. So myself and the others who are involved in teaching spend quite a lot of time thinking about each of our young people individually as to, what can they do at the moment? What are we going to give them next to stretch them? What are we going to give them to make them feel good about what they're doing? So there's a lot of planning and teaching in all of that that's probably is quite different than the way I would teach, an adult Morris team. Um, but it's incredibly rewarding. It's probably the most rewarding thing I've ever been involved in. It's fabulous. So, it's worth all of that extra extra work and effort. So I think that is what I was going to say about retention as well. So I've got a couple of minutes left just to touch on a few safeguarding things as well, because like I said at the beginning, I honestly think that safeguarding in some ways is the most important thing. Safety first, because they're not adults. We can't trust them to necessarily make sensible decisions, and they've been entrusted to us by their parents. So we have a duty of care to make sure that they are safe and happy whilst they are with us. So we have quite a careful structure in place in terms of supervising what they're doing, reminding them about safety aspects of things. So, the basics of making sure their shoelaces are tied and that they're keeping well hydrated and that they've got sun cream on when we're outside and, all of that kind of stuff. We always make sure we have a trained first aider on hand, which means that we pay for some of our volunteers to go on one day, St John's Ambulance, that kind of thing, first aider courses if they haven't got access to that training through their job or whatever already, so that we've always got somebody on hand. And then we have quite a few adults involved. We have 30 odd people, 30 to 40 people who are in the team, the performing members. But we have a management committee of 8 adults, including myself, making all of that happen. And then we have other volunteers as well who help. And we have a safeguarding policy that is quite structured. Includes things like all of the adults will be DBS checked, which means that we go through the process of getting DBS checks for people as we need to, including for our 18-year-old members. As they become adults, we DBS check them as well. And our safeguarding policy pretty much tries to cover all of the types of things that any of us as adults might need to think about. And then we have 2 safeguarding leads who ensure that that policy is up to date and that everybody's compliant with it, and that support is on hand for when there is an issue that arises that we think, do you know what, we do actually need to do something here. And sometimes that's safeguarding to do with things that arise whilst we are together as a team. But actually an important aspect of safeguarding is, we've got young people who are coming to us from all over, and they might have something else going on for them in their life, but we've still got that duty of care towards them to, raise any issues and take the right steps if we become aware that there's something going on that shouldn't be, because they are vulnerable, and so we have to look out for them. So yeah, we've put quite a lot of thought into that. We make sure that everybody does some safeguarding training as well when they first start being with us as a volunteer. And I think the other thing to say about safeguarding, it's a two-way street. So it's not just about safeguarding them, even though obviously that's the primary thing, but it's also about safeguarding ourselves. So making sure that we're not putting ourselves in a vulnerable position. So things like making sure you're not on your own with people under circumstances where they could then accuse you of something that didn't happen, that sort of thing. So there's all sorts of aspects to that safeguarding, but it's just really important to think about it. And then the last thing to mention, I realise I have overrun a little bit longer than I'd said, but we have a behavioural guidelines document that we get all of our team members to read and sign every year, and all of our adults to read and sign every year as well. And a parent has to read and sign every year to just make sure we're all on the same page about what the expectations are, about how, not only how the young people are expected to behave under a variety of circumstances, but what they can expect from us as adults as well. And so it tries to be fairly, light touch, but it's trying to be really, really clear. And it includes, the obvious sorts of things about needing them to stay safe, alcohol and drugs and whatever self-care type stuff, and also not bullying and making sure that everybody feels included. Mostly it's about being kind and respectful, to be absolutely honest. But it's also got a set of steps that, if somebody did break those rules, what would the consequences be? So that just everybody knows what they're dealing with. And we do find that really, really useful. So I think that's as much as I wanted to say. The only other thing to add being that if somebody is in the position of setting up a team and would like to see a copy of our safeguarding policy or our behavioural guidelines document or whatever just as a set of ideas for something you then want to modify and set up for yourself, more than happy to share that. So there we go. So I'm going to stop talking and see if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from our audience? Jen?
Yeah, I think the thing that has always stood out for me about NYFTE is how that empowerment really works within the team and the youth led teaching and stuff. And I just wondered if you had any snippets about how to foster that atmosphere, or like if you could talk about how it came about. Is that something you yourself have consciously done, or something that has evolved, or how has it come about? Because that's the thing that really makes the kids in particular, when they come through NYFTE, shine as fully formed, brilliant folk dancers.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so I've been, as I said, artistic director since 2019. I inherited NYFTE from Dave Leverton, who had been one of the people in charge of it for the previous 20, however many years. And I very much inherited that youth-led format from Dave. So it's not something I've set up, but it's definitely something that I very quickly, as soon as I was involved with NYFTE, realised that that is such a special and exciting thing. So what we're talking about here very much is that a lot of the teaching is done by the older members. We always have, amongst our 30 however many people, we have a couple of the older ones who are kind of chosen by the adult leaders as our kind of deputy dance directors. So they're kind of in charge of a whole bunch of stuff. And certainly when we're out at a festival and busking in the street like a normal Morris team, they're the ones making the decision about, what dance are we going to do next and who's going to be in it and that sort of thing. And obviously we do quite a lot of conversations with those people about how they might do that. And we're on hand to offer advice and support, but you have to let them try it and you have to let them make mistakes as well, because otherwise how do you learn? So yeah, there's quite a lot of careful planning goes into that, and quite a lot of conversations that happen during our training period, and quite a lot of conversations with the whole team, not just with those designated people, but with everybody, about that's what their role is and this is what we expect everybody else to do in support of them doing that role. And they tend to run the warm-ups, and they, as I say, a lot of the teaching sessions will be saying, okay, the next dance we're going to work on is this, and now this person is in charge of this teaching. And then we're just on hand kind of coaching rather than leading ourselves. So yeah, it's quite carefully planned, I think, is the short answer, Jen.
Thank you.
I just wondered, I mean, obviously, when you go out, you go to folk festivals. Therefore, I would assume that most of those who join are already part of the folk or Morris family. And how do we get out and appeal to those who aren't?
I mean, I think you're right for the most part. And it's an interesting question. We became a charity in 2023. And so we've got a board of trustees involved as well as our management committee. And part of being a charity, obviously, we have to be outward looking as well as just looking after what our members need to get out of it. So yes, we do go to folk festivals, and yes, that means that probably a higher proportion of our members are people who've come through that route, but not totally, because sometimes we'll get members who literally have just seen us in the street and aren't really folky at all, but have stumbled across it that way. The other thing that we are perhaps working to do more now that we've become a charity is also kind of trying to make sure that we're doing some outreach type events. So running workshops, which are youth-led workshops, but for young people at a place, either as part of a folk festival that we're at, or some of our winter workshops, like the Rapper Day that I've been at today. We tend, at the beginning of the season, we tend to have an open one, and we advertise that as widely as we can. And certainly a couple of years ago, we partnered with a school in Barnsley, and we had some of their kids came along to it who don't normally necessarily go to other folky things. So we're always looking for opportunities to do more of that kind of thing. But yeah, it is a tricky one because otherwise you do end up just as you're in your own little bubble, aren't you?
Yeah. Can I say as well, how many of those who, when they leave at 18, stay doing dancing?
Luckily for us, a huge proportion. I would have said probably 80%.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Because they have such a good time doing it. And I am always delighted that the festivals that I tend to go to, not with NYFTE, but just as a dancer myself or as a performer myself, and you look at the teams on the bill, or you go to a competition like Dirt or whatever, and I
Yeah.
can sit there and I can go, oh, they're one of ours, and they're one of ours, and it's
Yeah.
fabulous. And I love doing that because actually, the longer I've been doing it, the more of them that I see. But a huge proportion do carry on because it's been part of their life in such a overwhelming and huge way for
Yes.
perhaps 8 years, and they love it because otherwise why would they do it? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Cheers.
Can I just have a question? What's the commitment from parents? Because I know some parents I've known of NIFTY, they seem to be really highly committed, and you alluded to it earlier as that it's a big commitment for all the
It is
family.
a big commitment and it's quite the family affair. So yeah, when we do our residential bits, we've got a weekend and a week, and we just need the parents to drop them off at the beginning and pick them up at the end. So
Yeah.
that's not so much. But when we go to folk festivals, we go as a family. And actually, that's part of our safeguarding. We, as an organisation, can't take responsibility for nearly 40 kids camping overnight and making sure that they all eat and sleep and go to bed and all of that stuff in a field. It's just too much for us as a quite small team of adults leading that. So what we say is when they come to a festival, they have to bring a responsible adult with them, which might be their own family coming to that festival. And we usually try and make sure that as a family, they then get tickets or discount rate tickets or whatever deal we can negotiate for them so that they can come and enjoy the festival as well. But there's quite a lot of networking, and so it's quite common that for this particular one, so and so will come with this other person's family and they'll just adopt them for the weekend because mum and dad can't come but the kid can, and vice versa. And they're all quite, because it is quite a family thing, we encourage that, and they get to know each other quite well. So yes, it is a big commitment, but at least they can share that sort of thing out a bit. And of course, for some families, that's easier than for others. And the same with the travel as well. I mean, that's a big commitment. At the moment, we've got members as far north as Bishop Auckland and as far south as Somerset, I think, at the moment, and sort of south of London. So the ones who are living on the extremities of that, there's a
Yeah.
huge amount of travel involved. And we do try and move our festival performances around the country so that it's not the same people traveling the same distance all the time. But it is a massive commitment. And thankfully, we tend to be lucky in that our parents tend to see what value their kids are getting out of it. And actually, they get a lot out of it as well. And so they do make that effort and commit to it. But it is a big ask.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Howard.
So, just you were talking about how to retain how to get people. Um, I remember NIFTY came to Berea, Kentucky in 2006, and were quite inspiring to us to the Berea Festival Dancers, which is a middle school, high school group. Uh, they had hired musicians previously, but when they came to visit us, the musicians were separate, and stayed in ate at separate restaurants and separate hotels, and they decided to grow musicians from within the group, and that inspired the festival dancers to uh, grow their own musicians, have kids playing, and
Fantastic.
I mean, you're talking about, 35 to 40 dancers. Well, you need musicians, and that's been a problem for us. And I don't know if that's still going on with NIFTY, but um, we've had more trouble getting musicians than getting dancers. And so that was quite inspiring. But also traveling, getting people inspired. Where do you take this? They were so excited to be traveling and visiting us, um, that's is what seems to attract people in the Berea Festival dancers, is that we go to, Denmark and Australia and uh, travel all over the place. That's what really, we travel across the US as well, but that's what really gets people wanting to join. Oh, we can go, travel with you. That's what's exciting. So that, as well as just doing your local festivals, doing festivals far away really inspires. And the last thing that I have seen uh, a number of people that in other places, festivals and things, and impressed by their dancing, and oh well, they came out through NYFTE. Oh yes, they really do stick with it. Yeah,
Oh, that's so lovely to hear, Howard. And yeah, we still talk about the fact that the team did go to the States that time. We don't manage to travel abroad much, haven't done for years because it's got so expensive,
yeah.
and we have to be mindful of the cost to our families. And so at the moment, it doesn't really feel like it's on the cards, but it is definitely something that we would love to do again at some point. And I think you're right; it's a real kind of inspiring thing to be able to offer people that that is a possibility. I'm really glad you mentioned about the music because I should have mentioned that earlier and didn't. Yeah, it's a matter of principle for us that our musicians are young people from the team. So there is one item in our repertoire that's kind of our finale dance piece where we get them all to dance, and as adult leaders we play for them, but that is the only one. And everything else we have youth musicians, and we have to put a lot of time and effort into that as well. Obviously, we do have some people where music is their passion and that's what they want to be there for. We also have some all-rounders who we really have to work quite hard to make sure that they do play some of the time, because otherwise they feel like they'd miss out on dancing by choosing to play. So I have
Right,
to make very heartfelt promises to them that just because you've said you'll play for this one this time doesn't mean I'm always going to make you play, and that sort of thing. But again, I think it's the kind of critical mass culture with that, because that's what we've always done. They
right.
come into it as little ones and that's what they see. So they expect that that's what will happen. And we quite often get them joining not playing an instrument. And then one year they will go from not really being able to play at Easter one year. And the next year they'll turn up and get their instrument out and suddenly they're amazing because it's inspired them to do it. So it's a critical mass culture thing, but it does take a bit of
Right.
planning behind the
But
scenes.
it takes so much longer to learn. I mean, you can get them
It
if they're
does.
dancers, they can you can teach them, in a weekend you can teach them to dance, but you can't teach them to play in a
They
weekend.
have to
So,
put the time in themselves, don't they? Otherwise it's not going to get there. And yeah, it's about
right,
them being inspired enough to want to do it, I think.
right,
But yeah, I think having a culture that that's the expectation makes a difference, because I do see teams out there where there's lots and lots of young people and then a whole bunch of adults playing for them, and it has
right,
its place. Sometimes that's the only way of doing it, but I always there's a little bit of me going, oh, it's such a shame that you don't have young musicians as well, because actually playing for dance is such an important skill that as a community we need that as much as we need the dancing, don't we? So
right.
yeah, no, thank you for that.
Right. Thank you very much for questions. Oh, does, we've overrun, Eliza. Do you need this one question now, or you need to unmute?
Sorry. Oh no, I didn't realise. It was just a do you have like a minimum standard, or do you encourage them from when they first start to join in with the playing and improve?
I will try and answer as quickly as I possibly can. We try and make it inclusive to everybody. So
Excellent.
they join. Um, we sort of have an audition day, but it's not a checking what their existing skill level is. It's waiting. It's trying to check if they actually want to be there. If they're kind and friendly and willing to listen and put some effort in, we'll take them. And
Brilliant.
then we very much build them up. So we sort of do and don't have a minimum standard. We are never going to put something up on stage that we think isn't of good enough quality, but equally we're going to make space for the ones who aren't the experts yet to have their opportunity doing that. So it's kind of both.
Thank you. That sounds great.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure if there's time at the end, we can have more questions. So save up those questions. Okay, so can I now hand over to, thank you very much, Jess. And can I hand over now to Penny Jane, please?
Right, just let me share my screen for a second. Can everybody see my pictures? That's great. Thank you. So,
do you just want to slideshow them?
yeah. Oh, what's going on? No, that's the last one. Bear with me a second, sorry. Why is it going? That's it. Okie dokie.
It hasn't changed on my view.
No. No, it's not working again.
I think if it's this.
So I'm going to stop sharing and
Okay.
reshare and give it one more go.
Okay.
Sorry about this.
Try.
What?
Yep.
It's
That's not showing.
slide down up to 16, so it's not working.
No, I'm doing the last one.
Pictures. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Oh, well.
No, most aren't showing. That's okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. You'll just have to look at the one slide. Unfortunately, the others aren't showing for some reason. So I'm from Steps in Time Junior Traditional Dance Group. We're based in North Dorset and have been going since 1989. We initially started because some children from a youth club saw an adult group of which my mother-in-law and I were part and asked us to teach them to dance. Since then, it has grown to be certainly a county-wide known group. We take children from the age of 3 until they want to stop. That can be anywhere from the middle of senior school to when they head off to university. And in fact, we have one person who's just gone to university, but she says whenever she's home, can she still come and dance? Which, of course, the answer is yes. We meet on a Friday evening almost every week. We do have school holidays off, and we run them as 2 groups. So we take the 3-year-olds until they are capable of doing a specific skills, so whether it be steps, whether it be a particular dance, and then they can progress to what we call the top group. So we're not doing it by age, we're doing it all on ability. Everybody comes from a varied background, and the ethos of the group is that it is free to all. So we don't charge for children to come and attend. If the parents can afford to make a donation, then they do. And if they can't, well, so be it. We're very lucky that the hall we use and have been using basically since we started are very kind and charge us a minimum amount. We do events all over the place. So we started off, the very first event we did was a wedding. And since then, we've progressed to doing festivals, local fetes. So we do Swanage, Wimborne every year. We do the Jane Austen Festival in Bath. In 1997, we did our first foreign tour, which was to Ireland, which we completely organised ourselves. So we decided where we wanted to go, sent messages around the people of the area that we were interested in going to, and then we took a group with a couple of parents as our helpers. We have also been really lucky to attend the Europead on several occasions, not since 2019, unfortunately, because, as Jess said, the funding for going abroad is getting more and more expensive. And yeah, one of the highlights of our 2012 particularly was when we were chosen to dance as spectator entertainment for the Olympics in London and also for the Paralympics. In fact, when we were there, we were told by one of the organisers of the spectator entertainment that we had the biggest crowd watching us of any of the entertainment people, which was brilliant. We've also been really lucky to be on television. So we were on Aid in Britain, We were featured in Country File with our Snowdrop lanterns and our Snowdrop festival that is held in Shaftesbury every year. But also, whilst being at various events, we have been filmed for German television, Australian, and even South Korean on one occasion at the Jane Austen Festival. And unbeknownst to us, we became featured on the Welcome to England video at Heathrow Airport. Nobody asked, no, we didn't know. It wasn't until a member of our group happened to be coming into Heathrow and saw us that we thought that we found out that we were there. So when we dance out, we do joining in dances as well as the dances that we specifically learn. So, and I think you may be able to see a slide that has some pictures on it this time. Yay. So my favorite picture on here is actually the top left-hand corner, because that is a group taken at the Europead where there are, I think, about 7 different countries joining us for a Circassian circle. I think I can now count to 3 in several languages. So yeah, pictures of our Olympic ones. So a few of the interesting things that we have going on. So the Europead, got the Jane Austen Festival, and the Philly and Ashmore, which is a highlight of our year. So the dances we do Playford dance, we do a bit of Morris, we do the longsword, and we do the Dorset broom dance. We try and concentrate. Oh, we also do step dance. We try and concentrate on Dorset dances start with, and then English dances. As you can see, we also do a mummers play, which was actually originally written by some of the members of the team. We also do maypole dancing every May in Shaftesbury, and then out and about in other times. Okay, stop. Sorry, just go back. Sorry, remember where I am. Okay, so the downside of running a children's group that we found is obviously you have to get the commitment from the parents. And the majority of our dancers do not come from a folk background. They usually see us dancing around the area, whether it be at the local fete, whether it be in Shaftesbury, and asked to join at that point. All of our dancers are based in Northet, Dorset, or surrounding, but I think our furthest afield are about 20 miles from where we're based in Sutton Waldron. Contacting the parents is always interesting. Some of them will agree to do emails. Some prefer WhatsApp, some prefer text, some prefer Facebook Messenger. So you do find that when you're asking for commitment, you're having to send messages on various platforms, which can get a little confusing. Recruitment-wise, we give out leaflets about the group at every performance we do. And then we occasionally go into school, into the local schools and run workshops for them. And in that way, people come and join us through that. Or it's by word of mouth. We had a lot of people seeing their friends dance, and then they'll come and join us too. Funding in itself, so to run the side, is not too bad. Some of the events we dance at will give us a donation, which then we can pay for the horn and the electricity and the basic bits we need to keep the group running. Every couple of years, because we provide the costume, we need to find funding for shoes, which is, they grow out of them or they wear them out. All the costumes are actually made by me. So we just need to find the fabrics for those. Apart from the hair garlands, which are actually made by my husband. So, pros. Why do we run the team? We want to keep the traditions alive. The traditional dance, traditional mummers plays arrive, which basically teaching the children we feel is the way to go forward. Even if the children stop dancing at some point, we've had other dancers who've then gone off to university, who've started dancing there. And we've even had a couple of dancers who they left it until their 30s before they then joined an adult group for which they're now dancing. So it's there in their heads, even if it takes them a little while to come back to it. We have a lot of support from the local community and further afield, which is great. And we found the benefits for the children are the skills that they learn, obviously, various different steps, the way moving to the music, dancing is just amazing for their confidence and the coordination. Confidence-wise, when they start out, they get a little nervous dancing in front of a small group at the local fete. And then if you're lucky, you take them to the Olympic village, or you take them to the Euripede where there's 30,000 people watching them, and you find that actually all those nerves just fly away and the performance is amazing. It's an opportunity in our group to make friends because all the children come from different schools and different backgrounds. So we have some that are in private education, some that go to other schools, and from different villages and different towns, and they all come together and it becomes a big family. And once they're, when you are dancing out at an event, then they just click and they're all one happy group. Also, that performing at these events is actually an opportunity they wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. There is very little opportunity for sports teams to go around the countryside with where we are in North Dorset. So being able to take these children further afield, I think it's just amazing. So our highest point, I think, was this one. In 2019, we were awarded the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, for which we were absolutely over the moon, as you can imagine. And you can see all our dancers very happily in their costumes. So thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Penny. Jane, who wants to kick off a question? Actually, do you want to stop screen sharing now?
Yeah, I will do.
Actually,
yeah.
Well, I think of something. Em has a question.
I do. Looking at your photos, they seem to be predominantly girls. Do you have problems getting boys involved?
There is a certain amount of difficulty getting boys. Over the years, we've had usually one boy at a time, sometimes two. I'm not 100% sure why. But yeah, it is something that we do struggle with getting boys to join. Anybody else?
Sure, there will be. Well, can I ask in the meantime? Can I ask again about the parental commitment, and then we'll come to Jess.
So yes, there is, again, like NYFTE, there is a huge parental commitment to bring the children to events, particularly. Although I did invest in a 7-seater car so that we can take some of the older ones, with us in our cars, and then it makes it a little easier.
Thank you. Jess?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the safeguarding side of things, because obviously, I mean, I'm sure you've got the same sort of challenges that we have in terms of just making sure that everybody's okay all the time. So what do you have in place in terms of your safeguarding?
So we have safeguarding policy. We have adult musicians because just in the recruitment in this local area, there just aren't the children or the young musicians around, although we have had a couple in the past. So any adults involved are always DBS checked. And yeah, so we're really lucky that there's an organisation called the Dorset Volunteer Centre who will act as an umbrella organisation to do our DBS checks for us.
And like Jess, do you ask them to sign up every year, renew that every year? There.
Sorry?
Do you get with NYFTE? I think Jess said that every year you have to sign, the parents and children have to sign something to say about
Oh, our
behaviour.
behavioural guidelines stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a
No,
similar thing to that?
we don't do that currently, no.
Right. Any other questions? It's all gone quiet. They're thinking. Okay, so can I pass over now to thank you, Jane, Penny Jane, thank you very much. And can I now hand over to Andrew Fawcett, please?
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Andrew, and I'm here today because I'm a Morris dancer. A round of applause. Well done, Andrew. And more likely because I made the mistake of sitting next to Emma at our feast last November. Anyway, I'm currently the Squire of Wath Morris and also run our junior side, Wath Morris Miners. Or should I say, our very successful junior side, Wath Morris Miners. If you're hoping for any meaningful insights into how this came about, I'm not sure that I can be of much help. I can tell you how it happened for us. I can make a few observations, and also I can express some concerns for the future. So if you'll bear with me. How it came about, I probably need to set the scene by giving you a brief history of Wath Morris. In 1972, the local authorities decided to put on a May welcoming celebration in the centre of Wath. Floats, May Queen, you get the picture. A small group of local lads, including the legendary and I'm afraid late lamented Eric Presley, who were already involved in the emerging local folk scene, got their heads together and decided that they needed to contribute to the event. They came up with the idea of performing a one-off Morris dance. And the event took place at the beginning of May in 1973, at which point the one-off Morris dancers decided to make it a regular event, took over the organisation and turned it into a full-blown festival. As a result of this, ever since then, the Saturday morning when the official opening of the festival takes place, after some local worthy, in recent years it's been John Healy, does the official opening, it's always followed by Wath Morris performing a May welcoming song and two dancers. So fast forward, I think, to 2017, and I'll just do a bit of screen sharing here, if I can work it again. Yeah, fast forward to 2017, and we have a 3-year-old girl called Lily Jean dressed up as one of Wath Morris dancers. The next year, the same thing happened, and I got her and to come and stand with us for the opening song. This continued. Then in late 2019, I was approached by Lily Jean's mum and asked if I would be prepared to teach a few youngsters some Morris dances. That October, we started to meet in Wath Library every Saturday morning, and I taught them a few of the easier border dances. I should perhaps mention at this stage that Wath mainly danced Pleddington during the summer. We danced border in the winter, and we also performed some sword dancing and mumming as well. Wath danced into the ring in 1978, and as such, we're an all-male side. But coincidentally, with the 2019 date, that was when we took the decision to open the side up to women as well. For the last 27 years, we've put on a fire festival on the last Sunday before Christmas. This involves taking part in the church carol service, dancing outside church, procession to the town centre with a second dance performance, and then a firework display, mumming and carol singing, which in recent years have taken place at Wath Rugby Club. So the 2019 Fire Festival saw the first public performance of Wath Morris Miners to great acclaim. In the new year, we renewed our practicing efforts with the Wath May Festival in our sights, then disaster, COVID. So they never got to do the second dance out. At this point, the Morris Miners consisted mainly of Lily's school friends and my own daughter, Helena. And we attempted to keep things going during lockdown with Zoom sessions every Saturday morning in place of the practices. It had a limited success, and by the time we were ready to start again in 2021, there were only 3 of the original dancers returned to the fold, 2 of these being Helena and Lily. However, word soon got around and numbers built up again. I'm at a bit of a loss to explain where they came from. I know that as restrictions were lifted, Wath started to practice outside a local activity centre, and one young girl was attracted by the music and started to come to watch us, and she later joined the Morris Miners when we were able to start up with those again. Once we did get started, I found, as with recruitment at Wath Morris as well, it was the presence of the team out in the public that tended to attract new members. I think one of the other speakers mentioned something similar. It's the actual performances that tend to pull people in. I'll just show you a couple more pictures. That's Wath Morris Miners in summer costume in the centre of Wath during a market day, which we regularly perform at. That's at the Fire Festival in the winter gear. Yeah, when we started up again in 2021, it became apparent that the demographic had changed. There were still some school friends of Lily's, but now there seemed to be kids from other schools and even other areas coming in. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, they quickly became a very close-knit group, to the extent that they would be inviting each other to things like birthday parties, in addition to or even instead of their school friends. If you'll allow me to digress again, I'd like to draw an analogy with a couple of other instances of this that I've come across in my involvement with groups. Back in 1973, I started to learn bell ringing with a group of similarly aged people, mid to late teens. As a group, we possibly knew each other vaguely to start off with, but soon gelled into a closely knit group who socialised outside of the bell ringing activity. Likewise, when I joined Wath Morris at the tender age of 19 in 1977, it became evident that there was a special connection between not only the dancers, but their wives, girlfriends, etc. It was very much like an extended family group. I still find it quite incredible that a group of 20-something lads could organise their own group and keep it together to be still going in 53 years later. So what are the secrets to the success and continuation of well, Wath Morris and, more importantly at the moment, Wath Morris Miners? Basically, I don't know. Wath Morris Miners came about because of one enthusiast, so you probably need a key person to drive it. Somehow, at least to me, it seems essential that the group gels as a unit, which possibly means promoting a social side to the group outside of the actual dancing. I might just have a. Oh, I've lost me buttons. Never mind. Yeah, I did have a few more pictures to show. Oh, there we go. Right. Oh, sorry. That's them doing a workshop with Sheffield Steel Wrapper. This is them. They did actually dance at this venue. It was a 1940s themed VE Day celebration in Mexborough. And although they danced, they got dressed up in 1940s costume to do it. And that's them, I think, at a party. I'm not sure. Some of them anyway. I'll stop sharing. So yeah, to keep their interest, I think there has to be a social side to it as well. But as with Wath Morris, we do a variety of dances. Border and Cotswold, sword. They do a little bit of clog. They do mumming. In fact, I mentioned Wath Morris opening the festival. Now Wath Morris Miners have got a bigger part to play in that than Wath Morris have. After we've done the usual couple of dances and the song, the last three or 4 years, Wath Morris the Morris Miners have done like a tableau where they do a sword dance, dressed in their mummers gear. They immediately follow it with a Robin Hood play and then finish off with a circle dance, which takes about between 10 and 15 minutes at the start of the festival every year now. I've just shown you a picture. They've done a rapper workshop with Sheffield Steel, and also in common with Wath Morris, they enjoy singing. They do singing spots as well. I should perhaps mention as well that the sword dance that they perform is one that they created themselves. So it's possibly important to allow the kids some creativity in their own performances. They are in more demand now than Wath Morris are. And when I've questioned them about this, and they tell me it's because they're more cute than Wath Morris. How am I doing for time? I've got a couple of anecdotes with that in mind, or partly. Helena, my daughter, she obviously joins us in some of our expeditions that the rest of the Morris Miners can't. So Wath Morris do a Dales tour every year. And 2 years ago, we were dancing at the Creamery in Wensleydale, and Helena had performed in a couple of dances and done a solo Morris jig as well. And a lady came up to her, gave her a £5 note, which she picked up the bucket to put it in, and the lady says, "No, it's not for that. That's for you." So, the sword dance. Oh, somebody mentioned earlier about nerves and things. To me, they seem to be fearless. 2 years ago, they joined us on our Boxing Day tour, but usually not in big numbers. We had, I think we had 5 of them 2 years ago joined us, but only 4 at any one time. And they wanted to do the sword dance, and they'd never practiced it with 4. I said, "It's really difficult to make a lot with just 4 people. Are you sure you want to do it?" "Yeah, no problem, we'll do it." And they did, just did it. You need a lot of support besides the actual teaching and performance of the dancers. Anne-Marie, who is Lily's mother, who to some extent instigated it all. She's worked wonders with the costumes. She does all the costumes, and she's constantly having to do the costumes because I was going to say, unlike Wath Morris, they're continually growing. But in actual fact, Wath Morris continually growing as well, but not upwards. But yeah, she's constantly renewing the costumes and does a brilliant job of that. The other thing that's been very important for us, somebody else mentioned, I think it was it Penny Jane mentioned that it's free to the kids. We've always kept it free. We've been very fortunate in venues for practicing in that we've never had to pay for them. And some of us have spent quite a bit of time procuring grants, local grants. We've just applied for another one now. Only small ones, but it's what keeps the side going, I think. We've also had Tesco do a community thing, and on 2 occasions we've managed to get £500 off Tesco as well, which helps enormously in keeping things going. So grants I think, are very important. It could be that it could be important for recruitment as well. That recently, because of the performances of the Morris Miners at the festival, I was asked to go into a school in West Yorkshire to teach some primary school kids a mummers play. This was this last half term. The idea was to go into the school for about 8 weeks after school, 1 day a week, teach them a mummers play with a view to them taking part in a performance in the pedestrian precinct in Pontefract just after New Year. I don't know if anybody's come across him. Chris Dyson, who plays fiddle with Gale Force, he was the chap who got the grant. He'd seen Wath Morris Miners, asked me if I could help out with it. And the kids were very keen. They enjoyed it thoroughly, especially we put a dance at the end of the play, and all they wanted to do all the time was do the dance. So I can see that as being an excellent way of recruiting in the future. Unfortunately, it's a bit outside our jurisdiction. It's a good half-hour car journey from where we are based to the school in Nottingham. But they did the performance last Sunday, actually. And they had Wath Morris there in support dancing and doing their mum's play. Wakefield Morris were in attendance, and Sheffield Steel Rapper. So an absolutely brilliant performance by everybody concerned, followed by music in the one of the local pubs. So yeah, I can see that as being a possibility in the future for further recruitment. If I can go into local schools and do something similar, I'm sure that would draw people in. So far so good as regards Wath Morris Miners, but I do have concerns for the future. Not a major concern, but again, was it Emma brought up the question of boys in being involved, and I've definitely found a lack of interest in, well, yeah, a lack of numbers of boys, not necessarily interest. Since we started, I think I've had in total 6 boys. That's over a 5-year period. Currently, I've only got 1 in the group, whereas I've probably had about 25 girls over the same period, and currently 13 of them. The age range, which for the Morris Miners at the moment is between 5 and 11, might be part of the issue, and that boys are reluctant to join a large group of girls at that age. I don't know if that's the only thing, but that's a possibility. And it might change as the group gets older. Certainly, since Wath Morris became a mixed side, we've recruited a couple more men in the form of spouses. One of whom swore that he would never have anything to do with it as well. But he's probably one of the keenest now. Safeguarding, Jess went into this, and I'd probably like to take her up on her offer of getting the stuff that they use. up to press, we've got around this by insisting that the kids, obviously the primary school kids anyway, but we insist that they're always accompanied by a parent or guardian. But as they get older, I can see this becoming an issue. Lily and Helena both moved to secondary school this last September, and this year we'll have several more that will be moving up into high school. I can see the day coming when they don't want to be coming out with the parents, and something more formal will have to be put into place. Fortunately, we do have 2 safeguarding professionals associated with the side, so I'm not overly concerned with that, but definitely any ideas and assistance with setting that up, I can see being necessary in the near future. The other problem I can see coming, which I've not really got an answer to, is integration of the Morris Miners with the big team. We do perform a lot together, so it's not that side of things that's a problem. It's keeping the older members of Morris Miners interested and functioning as a part of the whole Wath Morris scene. Whether they move to secondary school will be the death knell, I'm not sure. I've still got enough youngsters to keep the Morris Miners viable for the time being, but I can see the older ones falling between 2 stools, not being old enough to join the big team and practice on an evening, on an evening, but too old to want to associate with the youngsters. I've got a few ideas, but I'm not sure how viable they will be. And I'm very much feeling my way on this one. One of the ideas comes about through my daughter's involvement with Barnsley Youth Choir. She's come through the children's choir into the intermediates, but they have a system whereby the senior choir members, as well as performing in their own choir, become what they call mentors to the younger groups. And I'm thinking something along those lines. Excuse me. Perhaps somehow integrating the older ones into the big team, but having them still come along to the Morris Miners as mentors to assist in teaching. So, to conclude, I think any advice people can give me on the way forward would be gratefully accepted. Had I had more time, I was thinking of approaching Barry Kerr to see how he went on with Moulton, because they started off as a really young group, and obviously they're knocking on quite a bit now, some of them. Whether he's got any insights into that, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to pursue that side of things. But as I say, if anybody has any experience of getting young people from a junior level into the adult side of things, then I'd be grateful for any suggestions. I think that's more or less it from me.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So have people got any questions or, as he's asked for it, any advice? Penny, Jane, please kick us off, go on.
We found that keeping the older ones interested, we take them to different festivals. So the younger dancers will do the local fetes and the local maypole dancing and that sort of thing. But when we do the bigger festivals like Swanage or Wimborne and Jane Austen, then we only take the over 9s with us. So that way that gives them something to be aiming for, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. It's that sounds like a great idea. Unfortunately, we don't do that many festivals. Obviously, we do Wath Festival. We do get involved in a few things over Barnsley way as well, which might be a possibility. But in general, we don't do much with regard to festivals. Personally, my family goes to Whitby every year. In fact, that's part of the sword dance came from Helena doing the junior sword dancing in Whitby and bringing moves back to Wathway there. But again, it's I should stress that none, I don't think any, apart from our family and Lily's family, I don't think any of the others come from a folk background at all. So it's not somewhere that they would naturally be drawn to other festivals.
Not sure who was first, Peter or Eliza. Peter, go on.
No. Oh.
As you're on the screen.
Hi. Yeah. So I was actually going to ask about the integration with all the way through your speech with the main team, should we say?
Yeah.
The adult team. Do you do any sort of mixed dances where you have the younger people in the same set
Yes,
as the adult team at the same time?
Yes. I say we do quite a few events ourselves through the year. We do what we call a Pretty Villages tour, where we tour around, bus tour around villages in the area where the at least some of the Morris Miners come along with us, and they'll do a few of their own dances, and they'll join in several of the dances with the big team as well. That includes the Fire Festival and the Wath Festival. Obviously, they join with us then.
Yeah.
Thank you. Eliza was next.
You asked for advice on transitioning from youngsters from their youth team into an adult team.
Yeah.
I actually experienced it from the point of view of your youngsters. My mum got me involved in my local team, which I'm no longer part of, when I was 3. And we had the something village Morris Miners. I think Morris Miners is quite a common one. And we danced all together until I was about 11 or 12, and then it stopped being cool, and we kind of all went our own way, because with something, the adults wanted us to then transition into the separate sex, male and female teams. And none of us kind of really wanted that. And we weren't into the whole kind of like the traditional kit, and feeling it made the majority of us, there was probably about 7 of us at that point, feel quite uncomfortable, especially in the local area. So what we ended up doing was setting up a youth team a few years later, which I then squired for a while. And the idea of that team was that we would have ownership of it. So it wasn't dancing with the adults in the traditional, but it wasn't dancing with the kids either. It was this is our team. We choose the kit. We choose what styles of dance we want to do. We do it, and so we ended up kind of being a jig team for a while, and we did Fieldtown and Bleddington. And the idea was that the age would raise with us, and we'd become the mixed team within the team or something. A few things changed. We ended up just being a mixed team in general. But I think what is important is that you give them the options, not just go, you're too old for this now, so you'll have to go and join the adults, but actually include them in the decision making, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to continue doing it, and they might have ideas about what they want that might not necessarily fit in with your traditional team, but they might still want to Morris dance. And I think if you give them ownership and the right to say, well, we'd like to continue, but we want to do it like this, and give them the space and the help to do that, then I think they're more likely to continue than if you don't. Because we had a situation where I then taught the next generation of Morris Miners when I was in my early 20s, and then I transitioned them into the Larks, which was our youth team, which we then became a mixed adults team, and we had an age range from about sort of 11 to like late 70s, and that worked quite well until gradually some of them went, fortunately, earlier this year because of other reasons. But we had one that stuck with us, a boy, interestingly, and he was 16. And I taught him to dance from when he was 5. So as long as you give them ownership and a say within whichever team they join. So if they join the adults, treat them as one, not as you can't have a vote because you're not of the age or whatever, then I think they're more likely to stick with it than if they're made to feel a lesser.
Yeah. It's interesting part of what you said then. I don't know. I don't know if you've come across Mick and Carol Roberts. Mick Roberts is a long-standing member of Barnsley Longsword, but he's performed with Wath for a long time as well. And his two sons, you've probably come across Jamie Roberts and Katrina Gilmore. Jamie's the youngest son, and got another son, John. Now, both Jamie and John learned to dance with Barnsley Longsword, but they would never perform out with them in case the school friends saw them. So they came over and learned to dance with Wath as well, and they even went over to Ireland with us and danced in Ireland with Wath, but you couldn't get them to dance in Barnsley no matter what.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I went through that as well. I think it's quite normal, but if you find ways around it, then they're more likely to carry on than if you go, well, no, you've got to, or just don't do it. Yeah. And they'll come back. They're more likely to come back if you give them the freedom as well. Yeah.
So, Andrew, I hope you've got some excellent advice then in the last last few people. Right, any more questions or more advice for Andrew? And if not, any other questions you've thought of in the meantime for Jess or Penny Jane? Or does any of our people just want to share any anecdotes? Oh, Jess, are you unmuting?
I am, just because I've just put in the chat a couple of links, because I didn't share any slides or anything, but I thought you might be interested to see. So I've shared the link for our website, but also NYFTE has the YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to see a little bit of NYFTE doing our thing, there's lots of videos from our end of residential week concert that we put on every year, if anybody would like to see. And I've also put my email address on there, because the other thing I wanted to kind of put out there and offer is that as part of our kind of outreach as a national organisation and as a charity, we're quite keen to collaborate with other youth groups around the country on a sort of semi-regular basis. Obviously, we're quite busy doing our thing a lot of the time, but kind of once or twice, maybe once a year or once every couple of years, we really, really like to do collaborative performance events or workshops or something where we're actually teaming up with another youth team. So I just kind of wanted to say, if there is anybody involved in a youth team who'd be interested in doing something with NYFTE, coming to something that you would normally go to or coming to something that we do, obviously that's quite an open invitation, and I can't make any promises about anything, but if you're interested, then drop me an email and we can have a chat about what that could look like at some point in the future. So
sounds like a great offer there. Right, we've just got 3 minutes left. Any more questions? No. In that case, please may I ask everybody to unmute yourselves and give a round of applause to our speakers today, Jess, Penny Jane and Andrew. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. It's been a real pleasure, and there's been some excellent insights in there. What we'll do is we'll try and if any of the speakers want to send me resources, or the Open Morris or the Morris Ring want to send me resources to go into the people who attended, I'll send an email out to everyone. So if you send me anything you'd like to be included, I will include that. And yeah, thank you very much for coming, everybody. That's been really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for asking us.